Mark, and I'd like to welcome you to this session, which is all to do with hand drumming and drum circle for churches. And I'm involved with a group called One Heart Drummers, and we've been going now for about 4 or 5 years doing drumming at different places, in community centres, for churches, for school groups, and out in the local community at events and festivals. I just want to tell you a little bit of my story to do with drumming and how I've actually ended up coming to do this stuff. So, quite a few years ago, before becoming a Christian, I was involved with a number of rock groups and doing all the, trying to live the whole sex, drugs, rock and roll lifestyle as best as I could. And being a drummer in a band and everything which went with that. But then I came tumbling into the kingdom, and basically I started wondering what I needed to do, what I could do with the drums, and wasn't really that sure. After a bit I ended up getting involved with the church worship team and playing some drums there. But it was quite a strange experience to go from being in a rock band, quite a heavy rock band, to suddenly playing drums in church. It was a real sort of culture shock. And despite that, I carried on with it and did the best that I could. But then I started finding this strange thing going on, where I felt like, especially as a drummer, you tend to be a little bit further back than the rest of the band anyway. And as a drummer, especially in a church situation, you tend to have some sort of screen around you. So I felt like I was over here, and the rest of the worship group were there. And then the congregation, it felt like there was this massive ocean between me and them. And I just felt like I wanted to actually be in the mix with people and be worshipping with people rather than feeling this sort of sense of separation, which was quite strange. So I ended up not playing drums in the worship team anymore, and wanted to actually sit and be with people because I felt like I wanted to actually be with the people. A number of years went by, and my wife and I were involved in a couple of different things, including church planting, and I came across this thing called Drum Circle. And as I read and researched it, it seemed to represent a way of making the sound, doing drumming with people, and facilitating, helping them to find their voice in the drumming, helping them to actually do it themselves, rather than just me almost performing over here and hoping that they get involved. Drum Circle represented something which was just so interactive, and I was so excited about it. I couldn't sleep for about 3 days. I was just amazed by it, thinking, this is it. This is just what I've been looking for. A way of using the drums to interact with people and to facilitate the stuff in them and to bring some things out of them rather than just doing this performance. So I went from there. And I started using drums at a little group that my wife and I were running called Eco Tribe. And we did a couple of drum circle sessions there with all the families and young people who used to come along to that. And we just started doing that. I started doing a little bit more drumming at a place called the St. Maddox Centre. And after a while, I met another guy called Bongo. And we decided that we would start trying to do something with the drums, see if we could actually start doing something together to get out there and provide something of Drum Circle. So the first event that we found out about happened to be a health and well-being event, which was going to be filled with all sorts of stuff which weren't necessarily very helpful, from meditation and Reiki type stuff to crystal reading and tarot cards and all the rest of it. And we thought, well, if we could get in there with the drums and bring something of God's presence into that situation, maybe we'll make a bit of a difference, and maybe they'd actually be willing to accept us going and providing drumming. So I made one phone call, phoned the organisers up, and they pretty much ripped our arms off at the shoulder to get us involved. They really wanted us to be there. So we went, and on some of the drums there was a number of different bits of scripture and things like that, but they were very happy for us to be there. Now, one of the amazing things is that around about halfway through that event, all the other stalls with all this mix of strange spiritual stuff were sort of over there, a little bit away from where we'd been able to set up. And we had a gazebo set up with all our drums in there, and there was nobody on any of the other stalls because people had all come over and were joining in with the drumming with us. and it was just amazing. We had these opportunities to talk with people a little bit about God and share stuff, and people would ask us then, because of the drumming, why we were there, what it was all about. And it really was a huge encouragement to us that we might actually really be able to use this type of drum circle drumming for God and to really make a difference, especially when we were able to get into a very alternative sort of event with the drum. As it happened, the organisers of that event kept on inviting us back year after year. So we were able to just keep on doing that, keep on bringing something of God into that horrible situation, and things just escalated from there. We were invited along to a number of other different events, including an Eisteddfod, which we weren't able to do in the end because they wanted to put us playing lots of drums and making lots of noise right next to a bunch of people who were going to be playing harps. So we thought there might have been a little bit of a clash. So we didn't actually end up doing that particular event, but we just saw this escalation of being involved in different events, being able to go to different places, being able to connect with a few different churches and help them actually start drumming as well. And we decided that we'd started meeting all these different people, that we wanted to try and provide a base somewhere that we could link with these people after meeting them at an event or festival. So we started the One Heart Drummers Drum Circle, which was based just outside Swansea. And that's fluctuated in size. Sometimes we've had lots of people come along, other times we've had less people come along. But it's just been amazing to see this gift of the drum be used by God to connect people. We did one event up at Hay-on-Wye, and as we were drumming, a group of people came along to join in with us who were Spanish, and they couldn't speak any English at all. Well, after drumming with us for half an hour, one of the guys just sort of looked at me and he went, as if he just felt relaxed and at peace and just had enjoyed himself so much. And we saw the drum go past these sort of language barriers, and we were just able to connect with people who can't even speak the same language as us. We've also been invited into some special needs schools, and we've found this some amazing things have happened as we've just been able to drum with young people. So there's one little girl who doesn't speak at all, but we'd ask sometimes if she wanted to play us her story on the drum, and she'd stand right in the middle of everybody else, and in a big group of people, and she'd pick up a drum and she'd just start playing, and it was as if, even though she couldn't maybe vocalize what she wanted to say, she was able to express herself using the drum, which is just amazing. There was another young lad who has quite severe autism and is profoundly deaf. Well, he sits there with the drum, and he's quite a big lad, so when he hits the drum, half the time I'm praying that the drum isn't going to break, but he hits the drum, gives it a right hammering, but he can feel the vibrations of the sound through the drum. So he sits there and he plays, he bangs the drum, and he sings at the same time, and it's just incredible. I am continuously astounded by how good this simple thing called a drum is for using with people and connecting with people and breaking down barriers and allowing us some form of connection. So after all that, after all these experiences, we're still getting out there, we're still going into schools, but we've also started writing a book. I'm going to be referencing some little bits from that book, which is designed to just help in churches and new organisations be able to use drumming and hand drumming for themselves. So I'm going to get into some of that now, and we'll go from there. Okay, so before we move any further, I think it's important that we look at a specific question which I often get asked, is whether or not drums are actually okay. Is it okay for God's people to be using drums? And also, do we find drums in the Bible? Well, there's a couple of things to answer in that to begin with. Well, we don't really find pianos in the Bible, but we still use those in churches. We don't find video cameras in the Bible, but we still use those. So to say that something isn't in the Bible isn't necessarily the greatest argument for us not using something. That said, when we do look for drums in the Bible, we don't actually find them in our English translations. We find the word used is tambourine or timbrel. So tambourine, everybody would be quite, look something like that. Well, a timbrel would be a little bit more like that, but with these tambourine little bits, these are called zills, around the edge of them. And that's what we often get in our English translations of whether or not there's, wherever there may be the word drum, it's often translated as tambourine or timbrel. But that's not what was in the original language. In Hebrew, the word which is used there is the word toph. Now, toph was a frame drum, which looks something like this. So this is an Irish bodhrán, but it's very similar. A simple round frame with some sort of bracing across the back, and then your drum skin stretched over the top of it. That would have been a timbrel. That would have been a toph. This is a slightly different one, slightly bigger one. And a drum which was played with the hands rather than any sticks, or maybe sometimes a small stick. But if you notice, no tambourine bits around the side, nothing like that. But these were called toph. And if you look into Jewish history and Israeli history today, there's a drum which is common there, which is called toph Miriam, which is a drum which looks very much like this. And that is the cultural, historical drum of Israel. And it's still the same sort of drums are still used today. You could go online and look for it and you find it very quickly. And that was the original drum that we were looking at in the Bible. And pretty much everywhere that we see the word timbrel or tambourine, the original word was toph. It was actually a drum, not a tambourine, and not a timbrel. At that time, there was a type of tambourine there, but it was actually called a sistrum, which looks a little bit more like that. But quite different to what we see today as a tambourine. Occasionally, there'd be a drum with some rattling bits on the side, but the drum that was specifically referred to in the Bible was this toph, this frame drum, and there's a number of times when it's used in the Bible. Let me just reference Exodus 15 verse 20. And it says in there that as Miriam the prophetess, Aaron's sister, took the timbrel, the toph, the frame drum, in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels, frame drums, and with dancing. And this word is used time and time again. There's, I think, about 17 or 18 different circumstances, different times in Scripture when the word that we see in English again is tambourine, but it was originally the toph drum. So this type of drum most definitely is in the Bible and used in a number of different places. And I bought this drum not long ago because I wanted to actually start learning this and be able to demonstrate some of this stuff to churches. And one of the things which amazed me is that this sort of sound which is going to come off this drum hasn't changed in over 2,000 years. It would be the same sort of drum. And when I first played this, it was like listening back in time. And I'm just going to play a little bit on this just so you can hear quickly. So we've got a doom sort of sound in the middle, and then we have a taka on the side. So let's look a little bit at our sonic armoury to give you an idea of the types of drums that we use. So you will have already met the frame drum, so bodhrán, or the one just here, a toph, which are played using your hands. You've also got djembes, like this type of drum, which are more traditional African drums, which again are played with the hands. We use a variety of things like tambourines. We've made up some of our own with things like little wooden blocks. These are a couple of little sticks of hazel. We use a variety of shakers like this. Rain sticks. Which is a lovely sound. Cowbells. We've made up plenty of our own little instruments, like this strange thing, which gives you a couple of sounds. We've got a raspy sort of sound there, and then a we've stuck sticks together. We use some smaller little drums like this. Bongos. And we've even used things like this. A very simple bucket, which tends to make a really good noise. Now we start with hardly any gear at all. Our first event that we did, we had, my friend had brought along a couple of drums. I had about 2 drums, and we had some buckets. And I took along some little bits from a standard drum kit that I had, and we sort of managed with that. But we were able to start building up drums by purchasing on eBay, trying to get second-hand stuff. I learned how to fix drums so that we were able to buy drums which were broken, fix them up and have them ready to go. Which would mean that the second-hand drum, which was also broken, just with the skin across the top, meant that I could start buying these drums in very quickly, very cheaply, and build up our kit. Now just over on my right hand side, which you can't see very well, there's a stack of drums, and we've got around about 35 drums now, most of which are second hand, but that means that we can then accommodate quite large groups of people playing, and we're always looking to build up our sonic armoury as well. We've used other bits and pieces as well. We've used some samba drums, we've used standard drum kits, and we've mixed them all up together to be able to just use and facilitate people joining in and drumming with us. So if you were looking to build up your sonic armoury, there's a couple of ways that you can go about doing it. We started with hardly anything at all, but you don't have to do that. There are plenty of companies out there which will sell you a batch of djembe drums or other percussion items, or a mixture of both, and they'll be brand new, and they will range from anything from probably about £400 or £500 for maybe about 5 or 6 drums, up to as far as you want to go. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is getting a few drums in and then buying some stuff second hand on the internet, on eBay, or you can actually just start with bunches of as we call it, like junk drumming. So using buckets and cans and all sorts of things like that. One of the things we've used is like big cardboard, the thick sort of like cardboard tubes. Yeah, the big tubes which are inside the big rolls of carpet. They can be pretty good because they're quite sturdy, and then you just stretch something over the top of them. They work quite well. So there's a number of ways that you can start getting out there and using rhythm to meet. So as I mentioned, we want to look at using drumming and drum circles with church groups. So but the question is, what type of drum circles are there? Well, there's a number of different ways that you can do drum circle. We've used them in educational settings, so sometimes that will be theme linked or national curriculum linked, and then you're specifically trying to pull out different elements of national curriculum, and sometimes those things include things like helping the young people make music together, or to make some sort of composition as well. So yeah, there's a number of things involved with educational drum circles. And of course a number of issues we're getting into schools, like needing to have police checks and things like that in place. We've also done community drum circles, which are basically going out there and being part of the community. And as we've done that, we've found that local people will come in and join in with it. And that can be very much based around the main ideas of linking with people, helping people feel quite welcome, helping anybody be able to get on board with what you're doing, rather than feeling like they need to be a drummer or need to be well experienced or something like that. A community drum circle is very much aimed at including people, helping people get involved. Another type of drum circle we've been involved with is providing something which was just quite restful and relaxing for people who were experiencing a wide range of medical issues. And then that was a case of just helping people to relax with the drumming, deliberately trying to make sure that the session had no pressure, that the drum beats were quite mellow rather than being somewhat frantic, and just helping people just to be and to take their mind off some other issues that were going on in their lives. We've also been involved with team building in more of a corporate setting. And then we use Drum Circle to pick up on more themes like communication, working together, helping everybody to value other people's contribution to the session, and also helping people to go from having an idea to having a product, if you like, at the end, even if that product is just a very short performance. And we found that's worked quite well. One of the things we always seem to find in any drum setting is that people can be somewhat reluctant, maybe a little bit scared or intimidated at the start of the session. But normally as people get into it, by the end of it, they really relax and they've really enjoyed it. And we've especially seen that with when we've done drumming at festivals, a drum circle at festivals and events, because we have the same thing so often. People walk past and they say, "Oh, I'm not a drummer, or I've got no rhythm." And we ask this simple question: have you got a heartbeat? And they say yes. Well, everybody's got an inbuilt level of rhythm in them. And sometimes when we're doing drum circle, we actually use that word heartbeat, to help people get into some sort of rhythm. But we've seen it so often at events and festivals that people will come along, they'll tap a drum and run away. But we've also seen people do that. We've said, look, we'll just show you one or two things, and then they've sat down and they've joined in, and sometimes they've been with us for the whole day. They haven't left because they've enjoyed it so much. And so often it's the children who drag their parents kicking and screaming over to get involved. But quite often when the kid is fed up and want to go off and do something else, they're almost needing to tear their parent away from the drumming, which is quite an amusing thing as well. So we've seen Drum Circle used in a whole variety of situations, meeting with people from loads of different backgrounds. And one last sort of area type of drum circle that we haven't touched on just yet is the use of drum circle in worship. And I often say that the drum is not the problem. It's how a drum is used which can be an issue. Just the same as our voices. Our voices can be used for praising God, and our voices can be used for cursing or hurting or damaging. And it's just the same with the drum. And although drums have been used in nefarious, horrible situations, the drums can also be used to praise God. And there's been times when we've just been able to drum and just use the drum instead of our voice to give praise to God. And there's something amazing in that especially because of the nature of Drum Circle is that we are not just trying to, like, I'm leading the worship, it's facilitating the worship and it's helping everybody get on board with that. And I'm going to talk a little bit more now about that whole idea of how you actually run a drum circle, what that's actually about. Okay, so drum circle facilitation. We often talk about, we often use this term leadership. And I often ask the question, well, what is leadership? What type of leadership are we talking about? And this affects so many different situations, but especially in the drum circle situation, there can be this difference between a leader and a facilitator. And I'm going to use this illustration to explain that. If you imagine you're going for a walk up a mountain, you might have somebody who is a leader. And they will get you up to the top of the mountain and back down safely. Great, they've done the task. But the question is how much you've actually learned through that. You might have had the experience of going up a mountain and back down. But the question would be is how much have you actually learned and sort of assimilated into your own understanding through that. Now a facilitator would help people to plot their course up the mountain. They'd help them to be able to get to the top of the mountain and back down, but facilitate and learning at the same time, so that those people would then be able to get up to the top of the mountain and back down themselves, and not only do that themselves, but also then be able to help other people get up to the top of the mountain and back down. I think sometimes we could even say that was a little bit like discipleship. We want to see disciples who make disciples, not just people who lead others and the others just blindly follow, like sheeple. Now this is especially true in drum circle facilitation. It's not just about telling everybody what to do. It's about trying to enable people and empower people to find their voice using the drum. And that can go from the very basics of how do you play a drum up to how can they improvise, how can they play, how can they be playful, how can they experiment, how can they learn how to get a sound out of a drum using their own hands and using the different parts of their hands. It's helping them to not just know about a drum, but to understand it. And there's something quite important about this idea of not just having knowledge, but having understanding. And I think that comes through a facilitative process, whereby we don't want people just to know in an academic sense what a drum is, or how the sound is made. We want them to understand it because they've actually been involved in the process of making that sound. So drum circle facilitation has quite a deep edge to it, whereby you are not just taking people through a process, through a session from one end to the other. We really want to see people grow and try something and develop and to have a greater sense of confidence as well as ability through a drum circle scenario. So how do we do that? Well, sometimes that can happen through giving people the opportunity to explore the drum, to have a go at things, to play, to find playfulness and creativity, because so often we can focus on a right or wrong. This is the right way to play a drum, that's the wrong way to play a drum. If somebody is able to get a sound out of a drum and enjoy it, that's a huge part of the process. There's also a need to give people space and time, that we give people our attention and we listen to what they are doing and what they are bringing to the group. So we give some space to explore, and we give time and space to actually listen to them and encourage them as well. It's also good to give people opportunity to lead something. So if somebody's brought a rhythm, we say, okay, you start off with that and everybody else will join in with what you were doing. And this is all about encouraging people's voice, encouraging people to have a go, encouraging people to explore. And as well as sometimes showing them, okay, this is a beat, carry on with it, and let them do it. And maybe a few weeks later, if they come back to another session, say, okay, anybody got a beat that they remember from a few weeks ago? Do you want to start playing it? And we'll join in with you. And there's something akin to a murmuration, I think, in drum circle, that when you see the birds all flying in a murmuration, the question is always, well, who is leading? And it tends to be whichever bird is at the front at a different time. And there's something in drum circle facilitation which is about that, encouraging people to take a little bit of the lead in different directions, with different beats, different rhythms, at different times, to help them know that their contribution is valid. Although we're talking about drums, I think one of the greatest things we can do in church, but also in drum circle, is to help people feel like they are valid. Well, after all, God gave his only son because he values people so much. How much more important is it that we, or how important is it that we, or rather it should be so important, well, it is so important. It is so important that we value people and show people that they matter to us as well. And I think that's a huge part of drum circle facilitation. If we are just so busy doing our own thing, not giving people our attention, we show by our actions whether or not we value them. And that's a huge thing of what we do in drum circle. Helping people feel welcome, that they have a place to be, and that we value them. Let's look a moment at a few different beats that you could possibly do at home if you've got a drum, or if you've got a bucket or something else that you can play on. So I'm using the djembe at the moment, and the way we use a djembe is we tip it slightly away from ourselves. So when we bring a hand down onto the top, we're bringing our hand down flat, rather than if the drum was tilted towards us, we'd be hitting the drum that way on, which puts pressure on your wrist. So we're going to play the drum with the top of the drum tilted away from us. Okay? And we use the big flat of our hand in the middle of the drum, which makes our bass note. So we'll just do that. Okay, so if you're using the drum at home, we'll do the same, and I'm going to give a count to 3, and we'll hit the middle of the drum to give our bass note. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. That's our bass note. So with the djembe on the side of the drum, we're going to curl the edge of our hand just over the side of the drum, and we want to hit the side of the drum just with this part of our hand, and that will give us our tone note. So again, if you're joining at home, you could do this on the count of 3. So 1, 2, 3. So that's our tone note. So if I was to play bass, tone, tone, I would play. Again, if I play bass, tone, tone, it's bass, bass, tone, bass, tone, bass, tone, bass, 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 tone, tone, bass, tone, bass, bass, tone. Okay, and that's how we get into actually playing the djembe drum. So bass in the center, tone on the side. Now, one of the things that we often talk about when we're teaching people how to play the drum is we use this expression: if you can say it, you can play it. So I'm going to use the expression heartbeat, and we're just going to play that along together. So what we're going to do is, when I say the word heart, that's going to be played in the middle of the drum. When I say the word beat, that's going to be on the side of the drum. But we're going to play it to this rhythm, and we're going to say the expression like this: heart, beat, heart, beat, heart, beat, heart, beat. So let's give that a little go. Okay, so heart in the middle of the drum, beat on the side. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and heart, beat, heart, beat, heart, and heart, beat, heart, beat, and heart, beat, and heart, beat. Okay, so that's quite an easy one to get going with. Okay, but with so many rhythms, it's easy enough to start off the rhythm, but you can always add more on top of it, and you can always play more to just explore and enjoy messing around with the beat, but always trying to come back to that heartbeat. So I'm just going to play that for a moment, and if you want to at home, you can play that beat as well. You can mess about over the top of it, but we're going to keep on coming back to that heartbeat beat altogether. So I'm just going to start playing, and you can join in if you want to. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and heart. Okay, another beat for you. And this beat is going to be based around the phrase hot chocolate. So the way we're going to play this beat is like this. So we're going to play hot in the middle of the drum and the word chocolate on the side of the drum, breaking that up into the two syllables. So hot, chocolate. So chocolate on the side of the drum. And okay? So, and we're going to play it like this. So hot, chocolate, hot, chocolate, hot, chocolate, hot, chocolate, hot. Okay? So that's where we're going to play this. I'm going to say those words along with playing it to start off with. So again, if you're wanting to join in at home, yeah, just we're going to start with that beat, and as it goes on, feel free to experiment, try some different things, but keep on trying to come back, if you get lost, to this main beat of Hot Chocolate, and I'll play that for a little bit for you so you can have a play at home. Okay, so let's start that then. So, and hot. Stop saying it. Okay, so one more beat for you, and this beat is we're going to use the expression mash potato, mash potato. Okay, so we play that bit of this beat like this. So the word mash is in the middle of the drum, so mash, and then potato is on the side, mash potato. So it's potato, so the three syllables. So mash potato, mash. Okay, but we're going to play the beat like this. We're going to say 1, 2, mash potato. 1, 2, mash potato. 1, 2, mash potato. 1, 2, mash potato. Okay, and that's where we're going to play this beat, and we'll do that first of all, and then we'll see how we get on with that. Okay, so let's start playing that. And again, please feel free to experiment as well. So, 1, 2, mash, potato. 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 I'm gonna stop saying the words. Okay, so you might have noticed that as I'm actually playing that, I'm sort of bouncing my hand backwards and forwards, and that's just one way that I use to help me keep time. So rather than just going 1, 2, mash, potato, I sort of go 1, bounce, 2, mash, potato, and it's just a way of helping myself to keep time when I'm playing beats. Like I said in another part of this video, that everybody has their own sort of way of playing, and although we play some stuff which is similar, there's different ways that everybody will use to help themselves keep time and to just be able to engage with that beat. So feel free to experiment with some of those different things and see if you can do that beat as well. So another question that I want to answer is, well, why do I think it would be a good reason for a church to start a drum circle? Well, as I hope I've explained a little bit in this video, is first of all that I think the drum really is a gift from God. From the beginning of everything, people have been able to tap on something or clap their hands and make some sort of percussive sound. And we use clapping, don't we, to congratulate somebody or whatever. And there's something in that whole thing of drumming and sound making that people have always been able to do. Everybody can join in with drumming, which is great. So you don't have to be an expert. Within a couple of minutes, you can get anybody drumming. You can get anybody engaged in this type of stuff, regardless of language barriers, regardless of abilities. We've been able to use the drum with people with some real severe disabilities, and it's been amazing to see people be able to use the drum and join in with that. So the drum just reaches out to everybody. The drum has always been around. There's always been some level of percussion use, and people have always done it. The Bible has drumming in there. God's people have used drumming. And amazingly, so often the people who are actually mentioned as drummers were women in the Bible. It seems to, at least in my mind, change the way a number of different things would have sounded. So often we think of women with the long sort of dresses on, rattling tambourines. But then when you change the idea of that sound from it being a tambourine to a drum, there seems to be something far more strong, I guess, in that. Something almost far more warlike, I guess, in that. And it fascinates me that it was the women who tended to be the drummers more than anybody else quite often, as we find in the Bible. So there's definitely something of the ability to be able to use the drum, to engage with a lot of different people, the ability to take an instrument, and something which God has given us, it appears, from very early on. There's the idea of getting more people drumming and percussion. Although plenty of people play drums in the world, plenty of women play drums in the world, I think there's something whereby I'd love to see more women percussionists, more women playing drums. You know, I want to see more guys playing drums. I happen to really like drums. But just be amazing to see more women feeling like they can actually pick up a drum and make a sound with it. It's in the Bible. And I think that one of the great things about drumming is that we can use it to reach people, to communicate with people. If anybody can have a go with it, if it's in the Bible, if God's people have used it in time, and we can see the drum make connection with people, even across language barriers, I think it's just a fantastic instrument for us to be able to use to reach out to people, to meet a local community by arranging a drum circle, to be at different events and festivals, and put on something which engages people, which brings people together, and allows you opportunity to share with them and talk with them. And I think that's one of the great things about the drum. The drum can be used to communicate. The drum can be used to reach out. We've seen people walking along hundreds of yards away, minding their own business, and you can see their movement change when they pick up on the sound of the drum. And it's almost like throwing out some sort of sonic fishing rod, and it's just like you're reeling them in. And they come in and they sit down and they'll spend time with you, and they'll engage, and you find some sort of connection through making sound together. And this seems to so often open people up to talk about different things and deeper things. And we've seen that happen through using the drum. It just these times when it's gone from meeting with complete strangers to having made some music with them, and then they'll open up about some deeper stuff, and we've had the opportunity to chat and pray with people without trying to force the issue, and I think that's amazing. And the drum can be used to help people find their voice, to communicate, to be used in worship. I love the fact that using the drum, and especially drum circle, means that we can create the sound together. We can create worship together. And I know that people can come into a room and worship. As people often would at church gatherings. But I think there's something amazing about actually being able to sit together and have everybody actively engaged in making that sound together. There's something amazing about helping everybody find their individual voice and their individual way of playing. Yet to do all that and to do that all together, I think that's fascinating. And that is so much of my heart for people and God's people anyway, is that we don't just try to squash everybody into one box and say, right, everybody has to do this or go a certain way. I really believe that what God wants is to help everybody to walk in the path and plan that He has for them, not just to always follow somebody else's rhythm, for want of a better expression. We have to find the beat that God wants each one of us to play, and to play that, and play it as loud as He wants us to, wherever we go. I would thoroughly recommend playing, using drums in church settings, and using drums in outreach, and using drums in community. And That's partly why we've put together this book. This is not a shameless plug. The whole reason we wrote this book and put this together is because we wanted to help people and churches be able to use this fantastic gift that we believe that God has given us. So if you want to find out more, get in contact with us through Essence. It's a book called TOEF, which is a church's guide to drum circles. And we have this book on sale, but we're also willing and ready to come out to churches to run days to help them be able to run circles, drum circles for themselves. We're happy to do those training days, but we're also happy to come along to actually provide drumming at events. But our greatest joy is to see other people doing it for themselves. So please get in contact if you'd like to find out more. And there'll be some details at the end of this video about some of that stuff. Okay, so in this next section, I'm just going to share with you 20 benefits of drumming. Benefit number 1. Well, drumming is fun. No other instrument requires quite as much physical energy to play, and the inherently simple act of hitting a drum head to make a sound can be done by everyone. It's one of the great things about drumming is that anybody can join in with it and start making a sound. You don't have to be a professional. It's just great. Anybody can do it. Now, drumming allows for experimentation with various combinations of sound, which helps bring out a childlike curiosity, which in turn helps make drumming fun for people of all ages. We've seen tiny little kids get involved with drumming, and we've also seen people who are, I think one of the oldest people we've ever had drum was in their 90s. So people of all ages, and that helps people feel part of something when you see this cross-generational engagement in drumming. So that's benefit number 1. Benefit number 2. Well, drumming provides a framework for learning new skills and developing existing skills like timekeeping and rhythm, but it's all done in quite a fun setting and in a fun way. It's this full body activity that engages the mind to coordinate various parts of the body. And so drumming can help with coordination and motor skills as well. It's been said that drumming can help people with the skill of multitasking. Now, if you've seen a drummer sitting on a drum kit, there's a lot of multitasking going on there. Now, I often say to my other half that, if we're having a conversation, I say, look, I'm struggling right now because I'm needing to breathe and to talk. This is difficult, but I can play drums. Now, if you watch a drummer play, they're on a drum kit, they've got one arm doing something over here, another arm doing something there, and a foot doing something else, and there's this multitasking thing going on, and it can really help with that. There's loads with drumming which I think just helps us to be able to learn how to learn, and that comes back to the facilitation again. So, benefit number 3. Drumming allows access to a wide range of musical styles, as most music has a time signature and rhythm, with drums or percussion as the heartbeat within those musical styles. Drumming can also help people with learning other instruments as timing and rhythm are used across the board. So the drum gives you this backdrop as an incredibly versatile instrument and usable in unlimited settings. We can get, even with these simple drums, and play something of a rock beat. We could then pick up a drum and play something of a Latin beat or a samba or an African beat. And it's just so versatile. You pick up on all these different things just through simple drum. Superbly versatile, and if you're traveling somewhere, you can put quite a small drum. You can carry it with you. I've played drums on a canal boat, going through a lock or going through a tunnel. And it's just great. It just travels with you nice and easily. And it doesn't need plugging in, which is really good. Drum benefit number 4. Drumming and rhythm is something of a universal language. As I said in another part of this video, that we've seen the drum being used to communicate with people who couldn't speak any English at all. Now, drumming can be used by anybody of any age, any nationality, gender, race. It means that anybody can get involved with it, and you can connect with people, which is just fantastic. The drum is a good thing. Drumming benefit number 5. Well, drumming can help boost self-esteem as participants learn and can play a new rhythm, find a place in a drum group where they feel valued and part of a community. They're also able to make a sound that expresses something of themselves. Drumming is a great creative outlet, providing the opportunity to forge a person's musical identity. It's strange nowadays how so often people identify themselves by the type of music they listen to. But if you give people access to music, they can forge something of themselves. I guess drumming is so expressive, music is so expressive, and it helps you find yourself a bit. If you notice, it's one of the things which amazes me, that when we've sat down and we give people drums, you can show the same thing to everybody, but everybody plays slightly differently. They'll play the beat maybe slightly harder, slightly less hard, with a different tone, a different placement, and it's just amazing how drumming helps you to see that diversity, that amazingness of the way God has created us all to be very slightly different. It's incredible, and that comes through in drumming. Drumming benefit number 6. Drumming encourages personal growth. When someone learns to play a new rhythm or masters a difficult section of drumming, it encourages a sense of self-belief. They think, I can actually do this, I can actually drum. We've seen people sit there going, look at me, I'm drumming. And it's like, yeah, they've learned something new, they've given something a go. And that's just amazing. And sometimes when people get stuck with something, and then we work with them and they process it, and then they finally get it, it's an absolute joy, because you can just see that they feel just built up through that process, because then all of a sudden they've got the rhythm, they're in it, and they can carry on. And I think that can help build this sense of determination, a sense of character, a sense of sticking to it and pressing through to try and learn that new beat. So drumming can really encourage personal growth. Drumming benefit number 7. Drumming is a skill which teaches discipline, as it reinforces the truth that effort put into practice will represent what is obtained as a result. So if you want to learn how to drum and you practice it, and you're disciplined in practicing it, you'll get better. It's the same with any musical instrument. There's very few people who can just pick up a musical instrument and play it, and play it really proficiently, play it really, really well. But as people are disciplined, they learn, and what they present then when they play, it represents our discipline, it represents our effort that they've put into practice. And drumming can be really good for that, I think. Also, when you're actually in a group together with a bunch of drummers, there can be this need sometimes for a level of self-discipline, because sometimes somebody might just want to just go off and play whatever they want. But there can be a level of self-discipline to keep in that groove with everybody else, and to not spoil things for other people by just doing their own thing, or just going, I want to make this noise at the moment. So there's always this reinforced level of, this reinforced thing of self-discipline, I think, comes through with learning to play drums. Drum benefit number 8. Drumming can help concentration, as much of this act requires mental engagement. Playing the drums at a consistent rhythmic pace stimulates large areas of the brain, which has been recorded in scientific studies. This stuff has actually been shown. Rhythm provides a helpful, stable structure for students, and especially those with ADHD. And we've seen this also work quite well for young people who have autism. It helps them find this sort of, helps them find concentration. It helps them engage in the moment, rather than just having their thoughts and their activities go off in a whole range of other things. We've actually been told by some parents that their child will never sit still for more than 2 minutes, yet they'll sit down and they'll play drums with us for an hour very happily, without needing to be coerced at all. So drumming really helps engage that sense of concentration, and being in the moment, rather than just going off doing 101 other things. Drum is also used quite often as a tool in music therapy to aid focus and build new neural pathways with that idea of neuroplasticity. Drumming can help with that. It can help us engage our brains in very useful ways. Drum benefit number 9. Well, there's been a lot of talk about drumming for health. There's been lots of study conducted over recent years regarding music and drumming and their effects on health in general. Apparently music has been shown to stimulate memories for those with Alzheimer's and dementia. There's even suggestions resulting from plenty of research that drumming may help with many conditions from stress and fatigue to anxiety and hypertension, asthma, chronic pain, arthritis, mental illness and addictions. And there's been loads of study which is suggesting that drumming actually helps with this type of stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that now in drumming benefit number 10. So, as an drumming benefit number 10, drumming can be great as an aid to bodily health. Now, drumming is, for a start, a good calorie burner, as it demands plenty of physical energy with the whole body engaged, whilst the core, abdominal muscles are utilised for balance and stability. Of course, the longer you play, the more calories are burned, which means that there can be quite a good excuse, a good reason to drum a lot, depending where you live and who you live with, and whether or not your room has soundproofing on it. There's also some research that suggests that drumming can be a good activity for cardiovascular fitness, especially when drumming at a high tempo for some time. In addition, the repetitive motions involving various muscle groups strengthen areas like calves, wrists, forearms, and biceps. Drumming also increases muscle endurance over time, enabling people to play faster with greater control, and this strengthening aids other motor functions as well, and coordination in drumming, coordination in general. After a day drumming at an event, believe me, the amount of times I've been able to feel aches and pains in places that I didn't know I had places, because you're holding the drum all day, you're playing all day, and then I've jumped in the van to come home, loaded all the kit in, and when I finally get home, it's difficult to walk because I know I've really worked out those different muscles around my body. So drumming is most definitely good for all your body. Benefits of drumming number 11. Drumming can be an effective aid for relaxation. The word rhythm originates from a Greek word, which is rhythmos, which means to flow. I've done plenty of study on this idea of flow at the moment, and this stuff really interests me. It's been considered to be a facet of drumming whereby the brain and body have an ongoing stream of communication to produce a rhythm. So your brain's communicating with your body all the time to keep you moving in a certain way. So this can help people switch off from other stresses and provide some sort of mental relief, really, which in turn helps people feel lighter, more relaxed. There's one study which even showed that blood samples from participants at a drum circle showed a reversal in stress hormones, which is incredible. Now, we've actually experienced this when there's been times when we've personally been stressed. We've gone along to the drum circle, played for a bit, and just felt more relaxed afterwards. As simple as that. We're not doing any weird stuff in the middle of it. We're just drumming, and just drumming with God. And it's just a simple act seems to help relax you somehow. Drumming benefit number 12. Well, drumming apparently releases endorphins, and research undertaken at a study in Oxford demonstrated that performing music produced mood-enhancing endorphins, which encourage a positive physiological effect, similar to that of a runner's high. I guess that one speaks for itself. Actually, do you know what? I've got more than 15. So, number 13. Drumming is apparently good for the immune system. A certain Dr. Bittman, a neurologist and president of the Yamaha Music and Wellness Institute, discovered that the activity of drumming increased the production of natural T cells in the body. These T cells are specialized white cells that seek out and fight cancer cells and other virally infected cells. I would suggest you look up that for yourself. That's just one of the things that we found out as we've done a bit of study into how good is drumming actually for you. So, drumming benefit number 14. Psychology and science have both suggested that drumming can be used as a helpful therapy for stress. We've already touched on that. Drumming benefit number 15. A current buzzword is mindfulness, which can be used to mean many, many things, helpful or otherwise. That said, drumming can help with what we call head health. In that context, drumming can be used to help focus our minds, especially when we have a busy head. This helps us to be present in the moment and focus on the current sensations of drumming, thoughts and feelings, rather than thinking of other things. People often breathe better when they're drumming. Sometimes people breathe in time with the drumming and often breathe deeper. Quite often when you're stressed, you take shallow breaths. And we've generally seen people just sort of relax as they drum and breathe easier. Drumming benefit number 16. Drumming helps develop a listening and musical ear. A sound making trains people to discern rhythm, timbre and meter. This will help with your communication skills as well, because as you're listening to drum and listening to music, it can help you with the way that you communicate yourself and how you use words and how fast or slow and all those type of things, the different ways that we communicate. Drumming benefit number 17. Listening to drum can help an individual with time management and organisational skills. Firstly, when we play together with others, we learn when to play and when not to. Organise when to move and when to stop. If someone is going to practice at home, they also have to plan when they're going to play, whether or not they're going to severely annoy anybody else they live with or neighbours or anything else. So learning drum can actually help with an element of time management. Drumming benefit number 18. Drumming together with people provides the perfect opportunity to form relationships with others and to share creative ideas, thoughts and feelings. This can help improve interpersonal skills whilst working with other individuals and combining efforts to create music. It's just great when you see a bunch of people come together, they drum together, and afterwards they behave as if they're best friends. It's an incredible thing. People just really feel like connected through music and making music together specifically. Drumming benefit number 19. Drumming can help develop a sense of responsibility, as all our actions have results. If you make a loud noise and somebody alongside you has suddenly gone deaf because of it, there's an obvious cause, a reaction and an effect. When somebody messes up a rhythm, they can see how that affects other people. They can see how when they put a bit of a beat in at a different point, that other people either join in with that or stop, or it's just really interesting to see how immediate that effect of I've done this, that is the consequence. And so often today there's such a lie that there's such a thing as freedom without responsibility. It's just nonsense. Well, drumming shows you that you can be free to make an absolute noise if you want, but there's going to be consequences to that action, even if it means that everybody else in the room moves away from you because you're too loud. Drumming benefit number 20, the last one. Drumming together provides the opportunity to understand yourself better. Now this happens when people drum together as they add to a community, a group of other people, or they take away from it. When we come to drum, we can be intimidated by the drum. We can be intimidated or feel nervous or anxious about making a sound in front of other people. And sometimes just a simple thing called a drum allows us to have a place where we can experiment with a whole range of facets of being human, I guess. Even down to things like why we may like a certain rhythm and not like another rhythm. Drumming together helps us to practice things like communication with other people, empathy, when you can see somebody else getting a beat or not getting a beat. Teaches us things like self-moderation. I could play really fast, but should I play really fast at this point? Is it going to help if I make a lot of noise or not? Drumming is just, again, it just astounds me how good an instrument it can be for using with a group of people for all that happens in amongst everybody else. So, 20 reasons for drumming.